You told me that I'd be seeing Unchained as the biggest driving force out of this weekend's YCS. I would have thought you were crazy. You guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button, and welcome to Unchained Vancouver out here. So YCS Vancouver, top 32 breakdown. This is literally, I think, one of the biggest changes to the metagame landscape that we have seen all format here, because the big bad Kashtira competitor has just been pushed off into the sunset, and its representation has dwindled immensely. Now, your most represented deck here at 28% is 9 Unchained variants, which is nuts to me that they have such a huge representation in the top 32. It's actually crazy. Now, your second most represented deck actually is Dragon Link, to nobody's surprise, actually. We've seen Dragon Link's representation. It honestly, for the higher competitive grind and for the boards that the deck does tend to set up, they are pretty consistent in what they do. And I think that's pretty interesting. Now, right behind that is Purely with 5 variants and the top cut, which nobody should really be surprised about that. Purely has been one of those very consistent monsters that we have seen throughout a lot of the format, and the deck will continue to be a very consistent monster. And then we had 4 Kashtira variants, one of which was an adventure combo pile, which I find that a little bit interesting in itself. We're trying something spicy. And then we had 2 Flaunderies players in the top cut. I got to clap for that. N10 finally doing what it needs to do. Now, to be honest with you, we've seen on the regional grind that you can get top 16 very easily with Flaunderies. Advent just got the reprint now, which means that more and more people are going to have access to Flaunderies, which means that more and more budget players can get behind this. And I think that's a really good thing. Now, we also have Brain of Chimera. Remember when that deck was just an absolute, like, craze throughout the meta? Well, only one ended up making it in to top cut, which is hilarious at the end of this, that we saw so much of that monster at the beginning of its life, and it's just been pushed down to one little speck. We did have one Infernoble making top 32. A lot of people were very happy to see that. People have told me the Labyrinth was a busted deck. Yeah, only one Labyrinth in the entire top 32. That's a little bit scary. Manadium only had 1 in top cut. We had 1 Rescue Ace, which I think a lot of people were also very shocked about that. And then out of nowhere, we had a Sprite Duelist as well. So all of these piles that you've been maybe thinking were in different places, these results, I think, are actually... So that's your top 32. So what about top 16? Top 16, now this is where the story starts to get interesting. We lost 4 of our Unchained variants. So at a 31% representation in top 16, you have 5 Unchained variants holding on in here for dear life. And they're doing fantastic, actually. At that stage, you've also got 3 Kashtira variants. So Kashtira resumes a dominant slot as the second best deck in this, but that's not going to last for too long. We also had 2 Bysteel Dragon Link. Kind of unfortunate that that deck just kind of got pile drivered out of the top cut. And then we had 2 Purely, and then our one-ofs actually stuck around. We had 1 Labyrinth, 1 Infernoble, 1 Rescue Ace, and 1 Sprite. So you had a pretty decent spread here of the rogue competitors still holding on here in the top 16. And I think that still paints a pretty good picture. Now, all good things have to come to an end. Top 8. Oh, boy. 5 Unchained variants. All of them 1 out in the previous round, accelerating them to the higher placement. Now, your challengers here are, you have 1 Purely Duelist, you have 1 Infernoble, and you have 1 Kashtira, are the only things gatekeeping Unchained from a top cut. And unfortunately, as you push into top 4, you see, you guessed it, oh boy, purely versus Unchained and Unchained versus Unchained, which is actually kind of wild. And your grand finals is actually going to be Unchained versus Unchained, putting Unchained as the winner for this YCS. Sorry, Cached Hero players, your time is over. Let's pass on over to deck list. All right, the first list we're going to be looking at here is actually a bubble list, and unfortunately bubble means that they didn't quite make the mark for Top Cut, but that's fine. They still get their little participation medal at the end of the day. So we are playing double Fenrir and, of course, the standard branded extension package. Only one Fallen of Albaz. You do not want to brick on this card. I repeat, you do not want to brick. I see that we have also got the triple crossout Designator in here, and then you have plenty of good side cards. I mean, you side in the Shifter to laugh at your opponent, which is kind of cute. We do play the one Phantasme, which has had a huge boost. I think this was one of the coolest little tech choices that we did see out of the weekend here. And then, you know, you do have one Book of Eclipse with triple book for the standard defensive options, and Called by the Grave actually seeing a little bit of value. And of course, good old super polymerization to break apart those opponents' boards. Yeah, it's really that simple at the end of the day, that if your opponent starts to try to pressure you out of the game, you just Uno reverse card, you know, there goes their field. All right. The legendary Sous Ship Duelist also had a showcase, and I think it's actually been really cool that we can see this duelist in the natural progress that they've been making with the Sous Ship deck, because now we're sporting off Revolution Synchron in this bad boy as well. So one little thing you've got to understand, meme aside, when you see people that really do enjoy the character get behind the chance to actually play more of these decks and have them be part of their character, they really do encourage a lot of the player base to, you know, have fun. And I think that's one of the things. When you can see these staples, see the smiles that these duelists bring to the table, playing the decks that they love, that's the things that you will get the chance to enjoy. So yeah, we're playing standard Water Enchantress shenanigans, and you'll set up through the big power lines here. Of course, all of the ships will do everything that you need them to do. Next up here, we have some Manadium here. Now, we're about 7 weeks away from this deck going through its next evolution, and I know a lot of people are very excited for this to actually turn into something a little bit, you know, fresh at the end of the day. Do keep in mind that, yes, we still are playing the Crimson Dragon in here, mainly for Dispater interactions, but the biggest thing that you've got to remember is typically the King Calamity is one of the bigger things you'll do. It's just kind of been proven at this point in time that Calamity's not exactly the best monster, at least in terms of consistent results. If you're going for a regional, you can probably do well, but if you're going for 10, 11, 12 rounds, King Calamity hasn't felt like the better monster anymore. It's just you go for the more consistency routes, it feels like. And then, of course, you've got Croissant Designator down here, yet again being one of those cards that you just slap on the table, your opponent stares at you and goes, yep, that's all for me. You're just better than me. All right, what else we got back here? Hey, we have some Dragon Link back here. So I see that we are playing Book of Moons, pretty standard. I mean, that or you make the argument to play the Book of Eclipses, which we have seen a little bit of. We are playing the Thrust for the Destructive Daruma Cannon. This has been a little tech choice that we've seen actually quite recently through a lot of the regional circuit here, that just the power combination of these gets a chance to do things. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of Azalea in the extra decks for this, but that's actually kind of cool. And then we have the Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend actually built into the extra deck for time. I swear most people just kick this around as something to side in. So the fact that we actually are seeing that is kind of nice. Also, 47 cards, as you see here, is perfectly fine. You have, this deck goes through itself so easily. Chaos Space is such an insane card. I don't really see anything that's really too out of left field here. I feel like this is pretty straightforward. And then we have Infernoble for you here. Now, full disclaimer for Infernoble, I feel like this deck is pretty streamlined at this point in time. Connector Aqua Dolphin is going to get you a lot of places. You play the 6 books to form up the entire interruption chain to take out anything that your opponent's going to be doing that you're going to deem, you know, problematic. And then, of course, you do have Thrust down here to toggle into something like the Dimensional Barrier to take care of everything else. You really, I mean, I guess the biggest argument you can make is no red layer in this list, but I sometimes don't think you need it. And of course, I mean, DD Crow, hey, who needs buy steals when you can just crow away the big problem card on your opponent's field? So that is everything that I've seen in terms of data as of filming this. So please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.